Hey, you. Yeah, you. Welcome to the Malaka podcast.
Michael Jackson. As far back as I could remember, Michael Jackson was one of the first artists I started listening to. Now, I was born in 1982. From what I remember, actually, I don't remember, it was a decent little year. But what I do remember is being at home and my dad having this old school record player. I mean, we're talking like, you know, like old. I mean, this is when like all electronical things were made out of wood and very cheap plastic. So then he puts on a record. I check out the cover, and it's this dude just like leaning back, very chill, very relaxed. And it was the Michael Jackson Thriller album. And he puts it on, and of course, like this was all futuristic to me at the time. I mean, you have this big plastic black thing, and you put it on top of this other plastic wooden thing, and then you use this little cheap plastic needle thing to go on top of it, and all of a sudden music comes out of it. I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. Um, and yeah, I fell in love with this album. I mean, this is one of the best albums of all time. I believe it's still the best-selling album of all time. Although that may not be true. I think the Eagles' greatest hits is now the biggest selling album of all time. But realistically, I mean, everyone's always just going to remember Michael Jackson Thriller. It's just the way it is, So, and that was my first introduction to Michael Jackson. Now, unfortunately, I wanted to keep this album. And then my mom made my dad throw out all of his albums. Good investment there. And I remember my dad was actually driving me to one of my jobs, and he had the Michael Jackson Thriller album in the back. And I should have grabbed it, and he ended up just giving it away. And he gave it away, I think, 3 days after Michael Jackson died. I'm going to repeat that again. My father, who shall remain nameless, for the sake of haters out there, gave away a Michael Jackson Thriller album to Goodwill 3 days after Michael Jackson died. Yeah. Anyways, but I ended up getting it back again for like $25 recently, so it's all good. And I still keep it at my place. It's one of the few vinyl albums I have. And yeah, I don't know, Michael Jackson's music, it always just, got me out of a bad funk. I mean, it was always just, cool listening to him. And now, fast forward to 2019, where HBO has come up with some great documentaries. Some of them pure slander, a lot of them just, educational, whatever. But now they're basically, once again, slamming Michael Jackson's name. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to lie. I try to stay neutral. I'm a big Michael Jackson fan. I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, I don't know if he did it. I mean, there's no hardcore proof that he did it, It's these two guys, which, you know what? I don't even give a shit about their names. I mean, one of them looks like the rapper from Linkin Park. The other guy looks like Luke Wilson. It doesn't matter. Apparently, these guys have had a bad reputation of always, slandering and making things up and saying things didn't happen and then things did happen. And you know what? It doesn't matter. I mean, like in the end, I'm one of these people. I just want solid proof, you know. But again, Michael Jackson shouldn't have put himself in that position. And another great point that a lot of people always forget is The parents are to blame in this situation in many ways. Not all the way, of course, but at the same time, I mean, it's not like Michael Jackson was a relative to you guys. He was a celebrity. And people always forget, celebrities are, what do you call it? Normal people. Okay? They're just like us. We're all humans. A lot of these people, maybe they're looking for a quick paycheck. Maybe they figured worst case scenario, if we put our kid in harm's way, we can sue this guy later. It's just a very weird and sick world, we're living in, and just everyone's just taking advantage of everyone. And, I don't know. What are you going to do? Michael Jackson's passed away, it's been over 10 years, and, we're still talking about him. You know why we're still talking about him? Because chances are he is probably the biggest artist of all time. I've thought about this. Think about the most influential artists of all time. You got the Beatles, Rolling Stones, Michael Jackson. Those are basically the top three people, But Michael Jackson, the guy had such a following. Even towards the day he died, people were still, outside the courtroom, with his case in the early thousands there, and they were still cheering him on and making signs, and he had such a cult following. Nothing could break that. But how did this all start? How did this all start with Michael Jackson? Here's a guy who basically, grew up with his four other brothers, one other sister, who put on a hell of a Super Bowl halftime show with Justin Timberlake there, or at least 50% of a show. And, started off in a little house, with a father who just wanted to put their differences aside and, just form them all as a group and just have them singing and dancing in this little contained space. And then they, blow up as a group, and then MJ becomes the biggest star of all time. He earned the title the King of Pop. Michael Joseph Jackson, born August 29th, 1958, was an American singer, songwriter, and dancer. He is regarded as one of the most significant culture icons of the 20th century and one of the greatest entertainers of all time. Jackson was a global figure in popular culture for over 4 decades. That's insane. Think about that. 4 decades, he pretty much dominated, He wasn't, always number one, But, he was always there. He pretty much was number one. Let's just be honest. Even, if it was, kind of a not so well received single, it still got attention, The song he did with Eddie Murphy, I can't even pronounce it, but at the same time, it still got attention. Anything Michael Jackson touched basically became the gold. And he's the 8th child of the Jackson family. But the main guys, were Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, and Marlon, and then he formed the Jackson 5. He began his solo career in 1971 while at Motown Records. Now, Motown Records was the record company. So if you got those guys behind your back, forget it. You're just going to dominate anyway, But even seeing Michael Jackson on TV, whether if it was, him performing, with the Jackson 5 or him being on the dating game. He still stood out as like a character. I heard this story one time. I don't know where I heard it from, but I heard they were doing so much touring with the Jackson 5 that, I mean, it was just so much for, a little kid just to endure. And at one point they were trying to get on the plane and they couldn't find him. And they found him in like a closet somewhere, like curled up in a ball. And, they're like, Michael, you okay? And he's just, like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. So that alone, I mean, I've always said there should be like a limited amount of hours, as a kid star. It doesn't matter if you're an actor or a musician, whatever, I mean, there should be more things there to protect, kids in the entertainment business. But, I mean, this is an early stage of, it's just too much too soon. And, obviously he didn't have a good childhood, or any childhood, I mean, when you were 8 years old, like, what were you doing? Playing outside with bikes and, well, I mean, I don't know, I guess nowadays cell phones and, more cell phones. But, you didn't have a chance to, play with your kids and just live like a normal life, like go to school, and like you couldn't even do that. So, again, I'm not trying to make excuses for him, for the stuff he's being accused of, and like trying to, say, hey, he didn't know any better. I mean, obviously he should have known better, if he did actually do it, which again, we don't know if he actually did it. Like, who the fuck knows? I mean, again, we have no idea what's going on. Like, we just get our, entertainment fill, and, we just always assume the worst of people. I mean, even when Elvis Presley came out, and a lot of people were just accusing him of stealing the black people's music, they always thought the worst of him. And again, same thing, with Michael Jackson, they were just saying that, oh, well, he can't be this talented by himself. Oh, there's got to be something wrong. Oh, he's doing something with these kids and da-da-da-da. Like, it's always something bad, It's, nobody can get out of this entertainment business out alive, without having some kind of scar on their record. And, it just makes me sick. I mean, it sucks, I mean, right here it says Jackson is the third best-selling music artist of all time, behind the Beatles and Elvis. And again, like, you didn't think the Beatles and Elvis like didn't have like people just screaming at them and following them and chasing them, even if they took off with their cars. I mean, it was just insane. I mean, I should have mentioned that earlier with Elvis. I forgot Elvis. My apologies to the king. But yeah, I mean, it's just insane. I mean, with an estimated sales of over 350 million records worldwide. 350 million records worldwide. Holy shit. I mean, and of course he's won hundreds of awards, more than any other artist in the history of popular music. He's one of the few artists to have been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, which I didn't think that was possible. I don't know. And is the only dancer from pop and rock to have been inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame and the Dance Hall of Fame. His other achievements include Guinness World Records, including the most successful entertainer of all time, 13 Grammy Awards, the Grammy Legend Award, the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, 26 American Music Awards, more than any other artist, and 13 number one U.S. singles, more than any other male artist in the Hot 100 era. Holy shit. And it goes on. Thriller is the best-selling album of all time, as I mentioned before, with an estimated sales of 66 million copies worldwide. Jackson's other albums include Off the Wall, which was released in 1979, Bad, which was released in 1987, Dangerous, it was released in 1991, and History in 1995. Also ranked among the world's best-selling albums, Jackson is also remembered for his philanthropy and charitable fundraising. And yet, after all these accomplishments, the first thing today when you hear of Michael Jackson, what do you hear? Exactly. I don't even have to say it. I mean, it's, it sucks. Jackson became a figure of controversy in the late 1980s due to his changing appearance, his relationships, and behavior. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. If you look at a picture of Michael Jackson in the late 70s compared to the day he died, it looked like a completely different person. A lot of people always wonder, why did he go through so many surgeries? Especially with, the whole nose thing. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, maybe he wasn't happy with the way he looked. Maybe he just wanted to, keep things interesting. I mean, who the fuck knows? And I also remember when he did that performance, I think it was for MTV, when he singed his hair. I mean, that was fuck, man. I mean, that's a traumatizing thing right there to go through. And yeah, I'm sure that would definitely affect his attitude towards, just going on stage, or just, just the way you look as well. So in 1993, he was accused of sexually abusing the child of the family friend. The case that led to an investigation and was settled out of court for an undisclosed amount in 1994. Now, a lot of people just think, okay, you know what? He paid the kid off. You know what? It's not worth going to court. Let me just throw some money at the situation and that's it. Others think, you know what? Either way, he's not going to be found innocent. So just throw money at it anyway. It must suck being in the public eye. Because either way, if someone accuses you of something, I mean, not even in the public eye, but just for the most part, let's just be honest. If someone accuses you of something, you will be always remembered as that. So to be the number one star in the world and someone accuse you of such a horrible behavior, it's just one of those things where, yeah, if you're innocent, you just want this shit to go away, and that's probably at the time, that's probably what he was thinking, just, what, worst case scenario, again, I don't know if he's guilty or not. I have no idea, none of my business. I'm just saying, either way, you just want this shit to go away. In 2005, yet again, he was tried and acquitted of more child sexual abuse and allegations and several other charges. In 2009, while preparing for a series of comeback concerts entitled This Is It, Jackson died of acute propofol and benzodiazepine intoxication. Boy, I hope I said that right. Anyways, Jackson's death triggered a global outpouring of grief, and a live broadcast of his public memorial service was viewed around the world. Conrad Murray, his personal physician, was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and incarcerated. In 2014, Jackson became the first artist in history to have a top 10 single in the Billboard Hot 100 in 5 different decades. In 2016, Jackson's estate earned $825 million, the highest yearly amount ever recorded by Forbes. And like I said before, in 2019, the documentary Leaving Neverland about Jackson's alleged child sexual abuse received worldwide media attention. It just never seems to end with Michael Jackson. For every good thing he does is always a bad thing. But still, to earn that much money in 2016, and at that point he was dead for 8 years, still making an enormous amount of money, still can't cover the stain he left with all these sexual abuse cases. I mean, that is a hard case to beat. I mean, especially when you're surrounding yourselves with so many children and, a lot of these kids. I mean, they stayed at his estate called the Neverland Ranch. It's kind of not going to help your case either, when you name your property after, Peter Pan. And, Peter Pan is the tale of a kid who didn't want to grow up and, had a lot of kid friends and, like the guy had an amusement park in his place. Like, a big theater and, it was literally just like it was a kid's dream, to go there. I mean, can you imagine back then, like if you were a kid, you're like, hey, let's go to Michael Jackson's house and chill there, the guy's got everything, like what kid would not want to go there, But at the same time, it's like, you can't have your kids stay with him for like a month or 6 months, a year, that's just insane. Yeah, no disrespect to Michael Jackson or nothing, but, he's still a stranger, so I don't know. It's cool, you want to dance like him and, do the whole moonwalk thing, I always heard though with the whole moonwalk, he actually, ripped that off someone else. Like he saw someone else do it and then he made it his, and he did it on the one show there and he basically moonwalked, the whole stage there, and then it just became his. So everyone forgot it came from this other guy, and there you go, And a lot of his dance moves, he basically just borrowed from guys like James Brown or Jackie Wilson. He just wanted to be cool like him, And James Brown, we all know James Brown, awesome dude, but at the same time, yeah, he had his problems too, what are you going to do? But, yeah, that's what you do. Like when you're younger, you look at the people on TV or you see out in the streets and, that's your influence, So why wouldn't you borrow off them? Imitation is one of the biggest ways to flatter people. So why not? And of course, Michael Jackson had a very distinct look, At times, he looked like the coolest dude in the room. And then at other times, it looks like his clothes were designed with a bedazzler. So, a lot of his influences were Gene Kelly, James Brown, Sammy Davis, Nicholas Brothers, and Jackie Wilson. Each one of these people had their own distinctive style. They wore clothes that just, screamed out, look at me, but at the same time, like, I don't give a fuck, like there was a very distinct, like confidence, to wearing something like this, look at what Elton John wore. Elton John didn't give a shit. Like he just wanted to wear what made him happy and what made him comfortable, and that's what Michael Jackson did. Michael Jackson was so cool that when he was cold, he didn't even need 2 gloves. He just wore one. I always wondered that, like, where did that story come from? Like, or like where did that idea come from? Just wearing one glove, like one disco ball looking glove. And I found one thing here. This one guy, he's just telling the story how they were just, on set for something. And yeah, here we go. As we walked through the facility maze of hallways, camera rooms, and special effects labs, we encountered the chief film editor, Rick Ross. Maybach music. No, not that Rick Ross. Who was cutting and splicing a TV commercial. Rick was wearing a short white cotton glove on his left hand as he ran the film through his fingers. looking for yellow grease pencil marks he had made on various frames of film to be edited. To have a little green box of these disposable gloves sitting on the editing bench was standard practice for film editors in those days. Michael, who hadn't shown any particular enthusiasm for the tour so far, seemed suddenly transfixed by this glove and politely asked a number of questions about it, concluding it with, "Could you spare one?" But of course, the rest, they say, is history. The single white glove, later covered in silver sequins, made its television debut on Michael's left hand during its stunning performance of Billie Jean at Motown's 25th anniversary TV special in 1983. It became the King of Pop's wardrobe icon for the rest of his career, worn by Jackson and his multi-millions of adoring fans the world over. Another thing that always tripped me out is obviously the monkey. I mean, what's up with that? I mean, the monkey was named Bubbles, which I have no idea where he got the name from. I do have to apologize. It's actually a chimpanzee, not a monkey. My bad. And of course, Bubbles, the chimpanzee, has its own Wikipedia, because what doesn't have its own Wikipedia? So let's check it out. Bubbles, born April 30th, 1983, is a common chimpanzee once kept as a pet by American recording artist Michael Jackson, who bought him from a Texas research facility in the early 1980s. Now, Bubbles would travel a lot with Michael Jackson, even share visits with his home, and he would even be fed candy. That is one lucky chimp. But at the same time, there's another really crazy story where Prince tried to mess with the whole perception of Michael Jackson having a monkey, and then Michael Jackson at one point said, "What kind of a sicko would mess with a monkey?" And yeah, again, Prince and Michael Jackson did not get along. I mean, these guys were going back and forth for a long time. I mean, there's no surprise there, But, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, like a monkey. Or a chimpanzee, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, all right. I mean, it makes you happy, I guess, That's cool. Seems here that Bubbles was also the ring bearer at Elizabeth Taylor's wedding, one of 20, I guess. All right, so that's another good use for a chimpanzee. Again, Elizabeth Taylor and Michael Jackson were really good friends. And yeah, he was also really good friends with Marlon Brando. His son even appeared in the movie Moonwalker. If you ever see, by the way, I would love to review the movie Moonwalker, but I mean, it's just basically, it's a crazy ass movie. I mean, it's one of those movies where if you ever, I've never done shrooms in my life, but if you do shrooms, don't watch this movie, because I'm pretty sure you're just gonna jump out a window. It's a crazy movie. I mean, like the bad guy in it is Joe Pesci. I mean, just check it out. I can't even explain it to you. But there's also a great story. I think this happened like during 9/11, where I mean, apparently it's an urban myth. Maybe this did happen, maybe it didn't. I don't know. But apparently, Michael Jackson, Marlon Brando, and I think it was Elizabeth Taylor, like all went into a car, and they all wanted to just get out of LA because they thought that something bad would happen there, or and then they end up going through all this weird shit, and I don't know, like apparently they were gonna make a movie out of it, or like kind of a skit or something, and like one of these shows where they take stories and I don't know, make them real life, whatever. Apparently the actor who played him was the dude in Shakespeare in Love, I think. I don't know. I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't know. The family was insulted with the way he looked, and the story never got off the ground. And yeah, to this day, it's just a weird urban myth. Actually, if anything, Marlon Brando showed up in the very last music video that Michael Jackson did with him and Chris Tucker and You Rock My World. Um, yeah, so they were really close friends. And yeah, that must have been a crazy scene, man. I mean, they must have had some crazy parties. But yeah, the life of a rock star, or in this case, pop star.
This Michael, this cheese you gave me is it's just exquisite. Thank you for inviting me to this party. Oh, you're welcome, Brando. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
And that, again, that's a huge misconception too with the whole Michael Jackson voice. I mean, apparently this guy had like a really deep voice. I mean, but then there was some weird rumor that he was castrated and like when he was younger, and a lot of people always say like, okay, well maybe that explains his voice, and that's why sometimes it goes high and then it goes low, and that's why he couldn't do all these crimes because nothing works down there, or I don't know. Who knows, man? I mean, it's like Dave Chappelle said. He made Thriller. Thriller. I mean, how do you top that? I'll tell you how you top that. I mean, Michael Jackson probably did one of the best moves in music history. It's kind of sneaky too, considering he did a song with Paul McCartney. Oh no, he did a couple songs with Paul McCartney. But yeah, he was able to buy the Beatles catalog, and it's something like he owns like a quarter of it or something like that. I mean, but I don't even know how that happens. And he bought it for like really cheap apparently at the time. Well, I mean, cheap as in multi-millionaires bargaining cheap. I mean, there was even a joke one time where like Paul McCartney. By the way, if you don't know who the fuck Paul McCartney is, I'm not gonna explain it. Just get the fuck out of here. But anyways, he even laughed at one point, saying that like he made like so much money off songs, and Michael Jackson looked at him one day and he said, "Someday I'm gonna own all your songs." And then Paul laughed and he just responded, "Oh, great, good joke." Well, apparently that joke became a reality because, long story short, at one point the bid was for 40 million, and yeah, Michael Jackson apparently bought it for 47.5 million. To give you an idea what that was 106 million dollars in 2003. So, still, I would say to own the Beatles catalog, one of the biggest bands of all time, all their songs, that's pretty cool. So again, yeah, I mean, Wacko Jacko was not apparently that wacko. He actually knew how to invest his money. Although there'd be times where he would go on like $1 million shopping sprees and just buy like a bunch of weird stuff, like I remember watching that Oprah special, and just getting a tour of the house there, and I mean, like at the time this was a big deal. This was like I think it's happening in like the early '90s, and this is during the whole kind of like all the legal shit he was going through. So people just wanted to know like how was Michael Jackson dealing with this? How was he living with this? And like Oprah, being the powerful mogul that she is, I always liked Oprah because Oprah was one of the few women that could actually calm down my mother after a day of work, which, if anybody knows my mom, is really saying a lot. So, everyone knew that, okay, like Oprah can, figure out MJ and get a couple things out of him, but nothing really happened. I mean, she was kind of questioning him about the whole kid thing, and it's not like he admitted to anything, obviously, but at the same time, it was just kind of weird that he was kind of just, very chill about it as well, I mean, at the same time, I don't think anyone really told MJ that this was wrong what he was doing. Not in the sense I mean like the whole like that did he do it or not. I'm saying in the sense that he put himself in that position. You know, and again you blame the parents and that it's just a fucking tornado of fucking destruction that it won't benefit anybody. And I mean, even Oprah said that, looking at him, like she could feel a lot of sadness and, him being scared and, it just, like she could just see it in his face. He said that he was the most happiest on stage, but when he got off stage, he was sad. It's almost like the freedom he had while he was on stage, just couldn't compare to the freedom he had off stage. He knew probably once he got off stage, there goes my privacy. I'm not alone anymore. When you're alone on stage, it's just you. It's like being a comedian. It's just you and one mic. And that's probably the feeling he had. I mean, that was his freedom to be himself. A lot of us out there, I mean, we have problems just being ourselves because we're afraid of how other people are going to judge us. But with Michael and his music, it just showed how much freedom he had and how much he just wanted to express himself in a certain way and, just make the world happy, through his music. I already talked about Thriller. I mean, every track on there is excellent. I mean, one of my favorite tracks of all time is Billie Jean. Great video, he's lighting up the sidewalk. What more do you want? I mean, you got other great albums like Off the Wall. Off the Wall, I always heard that he made that during the whole Studio 54 phase. Now, Studio 54, for those of you who don't know, is basically, best way to put it is like it's the best club of all time, the most popular nightclub of all time. I mean, anybody who is anybody showed up at that place. Just Google a picture of Studio 54 and look at the crowd outside, and it just looks insane. I mean, like you can't see the street. That's how packed it is outside. So imagine what it's like inside. You got people inside just going nuts and having sex and doing blow and wherever they want. But I don't think Michael Jackson was part of that crowd. But it was more like what inspired him, to make that feel good album was just the whole vibe of Studio 54. I mean, that's what I heard. So, and of course you got, a great album that came from that. And yeah, I mean, listen, I can talk about Michael Jackson's music all day. I mean, in the end, it's powerful stuff, and that's the problem with this whole situation. I mean, like I said before, Michael Jackson is probably one of the most biggest music icons of all time. So let's say if one day, a tape comes out, or Macaulay Culkin starts talking, or Corey Feldman, or like just somebody starts talking and whatever. By the way, I want to say that Corey Feldman and Macaulay Culkin have always defended Michael Jackson. So I'm not saying they would say something. I'm just saying. I mean, like you never know what's going to happen. I mean, the next day. I mean, it's years after his death. Like we're still talking about him. So I'm just trying to say, what that impact, has, still done to this society, and how we're still talking about it to this day. So if something did come out, from somewhere, an actual videotape of him doing something, I mean, it's all for nothing. It's all gone. And now, since the recent special of Leaving Neverland, Which, by the way, I mean, that thing was like 4 hours. I mean, let's just be honest. That thing could have been wrapped in an hour. I mean, a lot of it is just about the family and all that, and then and their careers and like what they were doing or something. I'm not trying to sound insensitive or nothing like that, but come on, I mean, like, you didn't get paid for that. You didn't, like, come on, like a lot of it's just filler, for your, selfish needs. Let's just be honest. I mean, if something did happen to you, okay, fine, I'm sorry, whatever, and again, we don't know, you know what I mean? So that's why it sucks, like a person like me who grew up loving Michael Jackson. And and I'll be honest with you, yeah, I honestly don't want to believe that Michael Jackson did do this. I'm not in some kind of weird denial where I don't think it is possible. I mean, anything in this life is possible. I'm just saying, I find it kind of weird that one of the guys in the special, he said he was sexually abused by Michael Jackson, and yet you keep a wooden box of 5-6 rings that Michael Jackson gave you. I don't fucking understand that. I don't understand that. So someone like, rapes you, and someone, sexually abuses you and makes you do all these horrific things, and yet you keep a gift he gave you? I mean, do I even have to say anything there? I mean, really? Like, I mean, that's fucked up, I was like, if someone, sexually abused you with, a pipe, in your, are you saying you're gonna keep the pipe over the mantle? I mean, really? I don't know. It just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. I mean, in many ways, I think these guys are just looking for fucking attention, But, anyways, what are you gonna do? With I don't know, with every person out there's always someone that's just wants to extort them. So I will say this, and I said it again before, but Michael Jackson, a lot of us miss you. You gave the world such great music and entertainment, and if he was alive today, man, I would just say thank you, but I'm gonna be honest with you, man. You shouldn't have put yourself in that position. And I get the fact you grew up without a childhood, and you just want to do the right thing, but unfortunately, in this day and age, you can't do that shit. First of all, it doesn't look good. Second, someone's gonna take advantage of you. And it sucks. Actually, it really does suck to say that. It really does, because you want to think that people are better, and they won't use other people for financial gain, and but there's always people out there that will take advantage of other people. So I'm just picturing one day if something does come out, and then all of a sudden Michael Jackson music is basically forbidden. I mean, can you imagine not going to a party and hearing Billie Jean or Smooth Criminal, some of my favorite tracks, or even Halloween, never listening to Thriller, the actual song Thriller during Halloween, and the music video Thriller. I mean, he made probably the best video of all time, or he helped create it, with him and John Landis, and it's just a phenomenal video. It's a movie. It's a mini movie. It's 20, 21, 22 minutes, something like that, It got to a point where on MTV, and this is when MTV was just exploding, they played it every hour. So a third of that hour, you're going to see a Michael Jackson video. I mean, that would never happen today. And how many people has he influenced? And then all of a sudden, it's just gonna, it would just end. In my opinion, I don't want to say that this is true. And maybe I am in some kind of denial that this is not true and this is all slander. But someone should never put themselves in that position. Ever. When you're in the public eye, it is basically like being public enemy number one. And people just can't wait to catch you. They can't wait to bring you to justice and let you fall from the number one spot. And again, I understand that, he grew up without a childhood, and the whole Neverland Ranch, as a way of just creating his own childhood fantasy and living that and, having another chance at it. But, it's either one or the other. You either pick this life or, be private with it, or don't share it, because people will take advantage of you. I can't even picture a world where one day I turn on the radio or YouTube or even SoundCloud and I can never hear a song by Michael Jackson.